Welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. My name is Rob Murgatroyd, and each week on this podcast, I talk to some of the most fascinating people on the planet in all areas of life, from mindset to fitness to spirituality and, of course, business. Look, I believe you deserve success in all the areas of your life, not only business. But before we get into today's show, you may want to join us on our next Work Hard, Play Hard experience. This year, we're going to be going to Mykonos and Marrakesh. In these experiences, I have hand-selected a group of high-performing business people who are seeking more balance, connection, and they want to celebrate their wins as a reward for the hard work that they put in. If you want someone to curate once-in-a-lifetime experiences and force you to play more, rush over to workhardplayhardexperience.com. Fill out an application so we can jump on a discovery call to see if this is a good fit for you. And remember, excuses are over. It's time to live.
Long story short, when we got to him, we freed up those nerves, we remodeled the scar tissue, and immediately after, he was able to run down the stairs. He was taking ground balls with his son. He said on camera, if he'd met us previously, he'd still be playing baseball. What Goldman taught me was you have to bring an A+ every single day. At Brown or Harvard, you could skip class and probably still get an A, but there you had to be just 100% every single time. And so that lesson was absolutely incredible. Yeah, you have to, otherwise, you'll never get out of your situation. I think as entrepreneurs, we're such control freaks that we want to be, around every single decision. But the reality is your company will never grow until you let go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard show. Today on the show is Christian Seale. Who is Christian? Christian is as work harder, play harder as they come. He's smart, like insanely smart. And I'm embarrassed to be around him, kind of smart. He did his undergrad at Brown. He got his MBA from Harvard. Yeah, he's that smart. He also is a Fullbright scholar. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's crazy. This guy's got a lot of brains in there. But that's not why I wanted him on the show. I wanted him on the show because of how he thinks, how he solves problems, and how he creates companies that make a difference in the world. So, for example, he had some bad experiences with the healthcare system in the U.S. and some more favorable experiences, certainly in terms of price, when he was in Colombia. So he decided to find a way to make the U.S. system more equitable, efficient, and profitable. Now, 35 companies later that he's invested in, he's dominating the medical space, and he's working with people like Tony Robbins, who's always on the cutting edge of things. And on the play harder side, he kills it too. I mean, whether he is on his boat in Miami, traveling to Wimbledon, or speaking at a Tony Robbins event, he's always looking for the edge. You will love this conversation with Christian. Please enjoy this really wide-ranging conversation. We covered everything under the sun with Christian Seale. Christian, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know what, man? I am super excited to have you on the show because for me, you have this beautiful mix of this insane curiosity meets kindness meets incredible intellect. How do you like that for a suck up at the beginning of a show?
That's super, super kind. Well, I feel the same way about you.
I mean, just really incredible. And we're going to get into all of that in a little bit. And I think probably the best way to begin this is to start with a bit of your background. So you've got an economics degree from Brown. You are a Fullbright scholar. You got your MBA from Harvard. When I'm doing the research, I'm trying to figure out if that's one person or like 10 people. So like, how in the world, well, maybe the better question would be, to what do you attribute that level of academic success? Let's start there.
Well, look, I pride myself on the fact that I'm a continual learner. And so I try not to let those things define me, though on a linear path, they were things that I was proud of. I'm happy to share my experience around those things. But I really think it was my parents that ingrained in me just a thirst for knowledge and excellence. And at times it wasn't easy. I was a competitive swimmer, and I remember, doing double sessions and not being able to get out of the pool until you threw up. And so, I don't know if that's the best way to parent, but my parents always, ingrained in me that I could do whatever I wanted to. Luckily I had the opportunity to go to some amazing places in terms of education and have some amazing experiences. And it's been, I just feel very, very grateful.
I want to ask you about why you decided to sort of point your entrepreneurial cannons towards healthcare. In other words, what were the steps that led you to go all in on healthcare?
Yeah, it was really three separate things. And, now looking back, it's a pretty linear story, but the universe has this just amazing way of pointing you in the right direction. And I guess a little bit more background. My dad owns a lumber company, and, so I grew up in a very entrepreneurial environment. My mom was on TV as a fitness guru. And so I grew up in this environment where I didn't really know anything else beyond entrepreneurship. And, my few jobs were working as a personal trainer, working at the YMCA, Outback Steakhouse, doing some menial jobs, and then this experience at Goldman Sachs. And what Goldman taught me was you have to bring an A+ every single day. At Brown or Harvard, you could skip class and probably still get an A, but there you had to be just 100% every single time. And so that lesson was absolutely incredible. But I realized very quickly that I'm a shitty employee, and I just can't work for anybody else. So that's where I kind of caught the entrepreneurial bug. And healthcare specifically, I lived in the country of Colombia for more or less 4 years. I started doing this Fullbright scholarship, and then built an organization that does fair trade for oil and gas, kind of like fair trade for coffee and chocolate. And anyway, I got really, really sick when I was down there. Spent 24 hours in the hospital with two parasites, had a temperature of about 104, really felt like I was going to die. And then a day later, after being taken care of and getting back to health, I got this bill for $53. And honestly, I didn't really think much of it at the time, but 4 years later, I dislocated my pinky while I was in New York. I went to the ER. I was there for 6 hours. A plastic surgeon came. I don't know why I needed a plastic surgeon. All he did was pull my pinky 3 ways. And a month later, I got a bill for $17,300.
Welcome to America.
Exactly. And again, it was a funny thing, but it wasn't, beating me over the head. You have to do something in healthcare. The second thing that happened about a few months later was my dad walked in for a routine cataract surgery, and now he's blind in one eye. And 1 in 10,000 people typically get an infection. That was him. But the thing that was really, really frustrating was he was asked if he could see light. And when you can't, you have to go in for immediate surgery to basically disinfect the eye. But the person that was writing down wrote it incorrectly, a problem that AI or artificial intelligence could really solve. Anyway, my dad sent home, and his eye eats himself out. And I don't fully appreciate what that means, but his whole life has absolutely changed. And then the third thing that happened was my grandmother for years had said, hey, my sides really hurt. I just wanted some basic diagnostic tests. And she couldn't get them. I guess her insurance wouldn't reimburse. And when she finally got them, she was stage 4 ovarian cancer and died, about three months later. So at some point you just say, fuck this, and I'm going to do something about it.
Well, not everybody does, and you did, and I think that's what makes the difference between you and everybody else, frankly. This one trip to a hospital in South America has led you on a mission to transform the lives of a billion people. So, you're 28 years old, and you raised a healthcare VC fund without being a healthcare expert. What have you learned from that experience, and how are you using that to achieve what you've achieved?
Yeah, so I was 20 when I raised the fund. I'm 32 now. I wish I could have those 4 years back. But so
wouldn't that be nice?
It'd be really nice. So we are working on some stuff to help reverse aging, which maybe we can get to later. So look, what I found really quickly is when you have passion and conviction and you can inspire in other people, they really can see that in you. And it was interesting because I had raised money as an entrepreneur previously for the organization in Latin America, and extremely, extremely passionate about what I was doing. But this was like, no one was going to stop me. And so I was pretty upfront about the fact that, hey, I'm not an expert in healthcare, but here's what I have done. I've raised a lot of money. I've probably failed as an entrepreneur, and I've done angel investing. And so I have a pretty good idea of how to vet companies, vet founders. I had also worked at business school for Howard Schultz's fund, who started Starbucks, called Mavron. And so I had a pretty good idea of the VC game. And so I said, look, I'm not going to purport to be an expert in any way, shape, or form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the experts in healthcare, the CEOs of large health insurance companies or large health systems. I'm going to ask them for their problem. And based off their problem, I'm going to go try to find solutions. And then in the diligence process, I'll take care of the market. I'll take care of the founder. I'll take care of all those questions. But I'm going to ask the customer, the buyer, the expert in healthcare, if they want to buy this product or not. And if they do, then I'll invest, because it's doing two things. One, it's gaining customers for the entrepreneur. And the second thing it's doing is helping really de-risk, my investment. I think it's a really interesting thing in the venture capital world where we beat our chest for raising money. It's like, no, make money and then go raise money. So I kind of flipped the script, and I think people really like that thesis, that it wasn't, I know everything about healthcare. It was, let me go to the people, have them tell me their problems, and then go find relevant solutions.
It's interesting in how you're approaching these things. You've invested now in over 30 companies. 5 of them you've had exits. And for people who are listening who maybe can't see themselves in your story, maybe we can rewind the clock a little bit to when you invested in your first company. Can you walk me through how you were able to come up with the money to create that investment and make that happen?
Yeah, it's a great example of paying the dumb tax, which if you read the Keith Cunningham
the dumb
book,
tax.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so stealing that. That's genius.
So in The Road Less Stupid, the whole book is focused on not paying the dumb tax. And part of the reason I think I've been really successful in this portfolio from a financial standpoint and an impact standpoint is I paid the dumb tax many times and very early. So my first investment was a very close friend of mine from Brown. I was his TA. He had been my roommate, and he came to me and said, hey, I have this really interesting idea in biotech where we're going to grow cells in this new type of lab. And I didn't know anything about it, didn't really understand it, trusted him, and his sister was a PhD from Harvard, so trusted her, and this was her space. And I gave him $7,500. To me, it was a lot of money at the time when I was 23. Right now, that isn't the size of the investments that we make. But very quickly, I learned multiple things. 1, don't invest in things you don't understand. 2, be very careful when you invest in your friends, because it can cause a tiff in the relationship. And if people aren't working full time on something, that's like an amazing telltale sign that this thing is probably going to fail. So, a year and a half later, the company's going under and I lose my first investment. Same thing happened with the second and the third. So I paid the dumb tax really, really early. And when it's your own money, and I was making $800 on a Fullbright scholarship when I was 22. So $7,500 is a lot of money to me then, right? And I'm just a really high risk tolerant guy. But it made me realize if I'm going to take hard-earned dollars and put it into something, even if it's not a lot of money, I got to be really, really sure that this can be a good investment.
So you've now had 5 exits, right?
I've had 5 exits.
Okay. So if we go on the other side of that now and we talk about what it felt like when you had the exits, when you got the exit and the money went in your account and it cleared, what did that feel like for you? What did you think you were going to buy? What did you actually buy? How different did it feel? Talk me through that, because everybody always talks about, the investment and, buying into the company, but rarely do you talk about what it feels like when you actually sell it. So you've done it 5 times. Maybe you can kind of talk about what that feels like. Is it anticlimactic?
Yeah, I think, look, the first one's amazing because it gets the monkey off your back. And in terms of, there's really raising money as an investor, you have to do two things. One, you have to convince other people to give you their money to invest on their behalf. And then you have to go find extremely amazing entrepreneurs, companies, and products that can make their money back. And so the clock starts to tick, as soon as you take money in to give those money back. And so when you have that first exit, it's like, yes, I can start to give money back. And so the feeling is, I would say, a feeling of relief, a feeling of validation, because at least in the venture capital world, sometimes it takes 5, 7, 8 years to realize an exit. So when I had my first exit within the first 16 months, it was like absolutely incredible. And it really gave me this confidence that, hey, I'm really, really good at this. And so it gave me more confidence to double down. When the money hits the bank account, it's definitely an amazing feeling. But for me, at least, it's not the type of thing where it's, I'm going to go splurge in this area. It's like, it makes me want to do this even more and invest in more companies and double down and really make that impact to help transform the health and lives of a billion people.
Did you buy anything fun and exciting?
I'm a big wine guy, so I definitely splurge on I guess with every exit, my wine taste probably improves. At least the price point does.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so a couple of things that you mentioned that I want to get some clarity on that are rolling around my head. The first one is you mentioned that your dad couldn't get into the college he wanted because of his beard, and he didn't want to shave it. I can't let that one go. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so he did get in. He played basketball very competitively. He went on a scholarship to a place called Worcester Academy, which at his time was a very, very good school, and continues to graduate some of the top NBA players. And so he went to a school in Indiana, and he got in because of basketball, but he was kicked off the team because the coach said, you need to shave your beard. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And it was the same coach that told him that he had as much athletic ability as Larry Bird. And so, I can tell the story of 4th of July parties. He's 51 years old and he's dunking on people, and he's only like 6 feet. And so he was a pretty amazing athlete.
But why the beard? Why would he not shave it?
It's probably a trait that he's passed down to me, which is when somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it, even if it, spites my basketball career or athletic career.
I was thinking like, maybe there's some kind of religious thing where you didn't want to shave it. So it was just simply like, fuck you, I'm not shaving my beard.
Yeah, I don't think I'm working to disassociate myself of that trait. But yeah, I think it was pretty much, I'm stubborn and you're not going to tell me what to do.
I like that. That's part of what makes you for sure. And then you mentioned your mom. She was a fitness guru. Tell me a little bit more about that. Yeah,
so my mom, she was like a Levi's jeans model. I think in her time did some LA cheerleading for the Los Angeles Lakers, and then moved out to the East Coast, which is a pretty big culture shock for her, and got really, really passionate about fitness. And so we lived in the second largest town in New England, and she, for 10, 12 years, was on a program where she would get people moving, and she competed in this thing called AFA, and then forgetting the name, AAU, and would win these gold medals for aerobics. And it was fun as a little kid, being dragged around like on a leash and just like watching her, do her thing. But that definitely inspired her work ethic, but then also just like a love for fitness in me.
I love that because, we are nothing more than products of our parents in many ways. So I think it's important to understand, where people come from. And I'm always so sensitive to it. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and, we pick up on things, right? We imprint on our parents and how we do things. So I always like to dig in a little bit on the background part of the show to learn more about how you were raised. And I think it's really, really super interesting. And, I'm starting to think about how that affected you, moving forward when you got a dad that's super athletic and super intellectual, and you got a mom that's super into fitness. Well, it kind of makes sense that you go to Harvard and create a healthcare company. There's a lot to that. So I wanted to talk about your latest company, which is In2itive Interventions. Can you walk me through what started out as a crazy idea in your Miami apartment and quickly became a product that guys like Tony Robbins, Miguel Cabrera, David Ortiz are using? And maybe talk about what the mindset shifts were that you had to make in order to be able to create this company.
Yeah, it's again a really linear story looking back. But if I had told you that we would be treating those type of people 4 years ago when I started my healthcare journey, I just wouldn't have been able to see it, because a lot of my portfolio has been focused on optimizing what I call as a sick care system, and intuitive interventions in my mind is really the future of healing. And so how it started was, I have a very close friend. I think you met him on FaceTime, Dr. Abhinav Gautam, who's an anesthesiologist, a musician, a tennis player. I mean, he's a real polymath, probably one of the smartest people that I've ever met. And we'd done some business together. When I first moved to Miami, he was one of the first people I met, and we found out we were born on the same day. So there was something there, and we always knew we wanted to do something together. But about 2.5 years ago, he came to me and said, "Hey, I found this new way to heal the body from the inside out." And honestly, I really didn't know what that meant. But I had just sprained my wrists jumping off a trampoline. And I went to the best guys here in Miami, and they immobilized me, which I now come to learn is the worst thing that you can do. And so because I like to be active and work out, I wasn't able to do push-ups, and it was just really, really frustrating. And so I said, "Well, what does this mean, heal the body from the inside out?" And he said, "Well, come to my apartment, I'll show you." And so I go to his apartment, and I was very nervous, and I didn't really know what was going to happen. But long story short, he fixed my wrist by remodeling this layer of scarred and damaged tissue. And so 2 days later, I was able to do push-ups, and I said, "Holy shit, we really got to do something with this." So we started the company, In2itive Interventions, and that treatment that he did to me, we now call relief. And what relief is it's looking at this layer below the skin above the muscle, which a lot of people know as fascia. It's a lot more than that. It's this interstitial layer that was just discovered to be the largest organ in the body about 1.5 years ago. And it just has these massive implications for pain, mobility, and stiffness. And so, we've treated a lot of people, and then recently have been treating, the top performers and athletes in the world, because they try everything: stem cell surgery, PRP, body work, and it just doesn't do it. This is, really remodeling their tissue from the inside out. And, we're fortunate to have such amazing results.
So the fascia, have you ever done fascia work yourself? In other words, using some kind of, myofascial release, whether it's a lacrosse ball or, a little stick called a Theracane. Have you ever done that yourself on your own body?
Yeah, unfortunately, since I tore all the ligaments in both of my ankles and tore my SI joint and had knee surgery when I was 16 years old, I've been in the PT's office way longer than I'd want to. So I used to do that stuff all the time. They didn't have the Theragun back then, but the myofascial release and the lacrosse ball, and all that is really, really good. But there's only so much you can do from the outside in. It's almost the difference between a shovel and a dump truck. It's what relief does is it's the dump truck for scar tissue. It's taking it all out at once, as opposed to that, the lacrosse ball, which, maybe is the shovel at best.
So the interstitial is beneath the fascia or above it?
So it's really this layer below the skin above the muscle. What we used to think as just this dense wall of collagen, we found to be is really the body's highway. So there's a great book called Anatomy Trains by Tom Myers, and he talks about these fascial planes that run across the body. And it's really cool because if you map those against Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine, the qi, it's where the energy or the electricity flows. And so what they found is this highway, and we found clinically now, is really responsible for 3 things. 1, ion and protein transport, and then lymph. So basically how the body gets rid of waste. And then there's these little nerves that can become entrapped in that layer because they travel throughout it. So what we find when we use ultrasound to look is not only can tissue be disorganized, because it should very much be like a layer cake. It should be extremely, extremely organized. And if it's damaged or scarred, it looks like a picket fence. but there's these little nerves that get getting trapped in it as well. And so the combination of those two things can result in this acute pain that someone might have, or chronic pain. Is, you can imagine, if there's a nerve stuck in this picket fence all the time, and you're moving, that can fire off some signals in your brain.
And if we talk about the treatment itself, who is, I know you have some high profile people like Tony Robbins, Miguel Cabrera, David Ortiz, like we mentioned earlier. But for the average person that comes in, who typically is coming into your office? How long does it take, to get the result that they're after? Talk to me a little bit about some cases.
So look, we really serve anyone that wants a higher quality of life. Our mission is to end pain and suffering, and anyone that wants to be able to get back to running without pain, or play golf without pain, or pick up their kids over their head without having their back or shoulder hurts. Those are people that can benefit from this. And it's a really simple procedure. We use ultrasound to look at these abnormalities in that interstitial layer. And then we remodel the scarred and damaged tissue, free up nerves using proteins that come from placenta. And then what ends up happening a lot of times is immediately after the treatment, people feel a change in their body because we're taking that scar tissue out, we're freeing up that nerve. And so we have a lot of patients that are able to come in, they're unable to bend their knee all the way, let's say, and then they're able to. I'll speak about David Ortiz because you've said his name a few times, but he had these nerves that were trapped in scar tissue around his ankles, so much so that he was in so much pain he couldn't run. He's had this guy do the myofascial massage, pretty much every single time he played baseball. And he got to the point where he had to quit because he was in so much pain. And he went to the top doctors at Harvard and Stanford and you name it. And they would use this MRI to look at his ankles, and they said, David, you're fine. He would say, well, that's a pretty shitty answer because I'm in pain. And long story short, when we got to him, we freed up those nerves, we remodeled the scar tissue, and immediately after, he was able to run down the stairs. He was taking ground balls with his son. He said on camera, if he'd met us previously, he'd still be playing baseball.
So interesting. When you have a problem that you don't have a solution for, like a problem, let's say, in the knee, like you just described, you go down this road of taking drugs and modifying your lifestyle. Then you wind up with other postural imbalances because you're not walking the way you need to be walking. And then, your ribs get out of alignment and your shoulder gets out of alignment. And then you take some more muscle relaxers and pain pills. And one little thing, had it just been unlocked 5 years earlier, 20 years earlier, whatever it is, completely change the trajectory of your life. And I think that's the thing I'm so excited about with the work that you're doing over there. I mean, it must be a really great feeling.
Yeah, and why I say it's the future of healing is, look, a lot of my portfolio companies, which I'm proud to be an investor in, are technology that's servicing and optimization of the health system. And again, I think we have an amazing sick care system. If you have a really bad disease, it's the best place to go. But when you talk about prevention, maintenance, health, and wellness, I just don't think that's what our system serves. So here it's, people come to us and they've had an issue for 30 years and they finally get relief. Or, we had a case of a woman who hadn't run for 22 years and she just sent a video of her running pain-free. And that is what gets us up in the morning, right? It's to improve these people's quality of lives. So you said to unlock their basic body. It's not masking symptoms, but it's really getting at the root cause and then letting people be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I want to switch gears a little bit. The show is called Work Hard, Play Hard, and we've talked a lot about your work. I want to talk a little bit about your play. I want to talk a little bit about fulfillment in your life. And some of these may, most entrepreneurs don't have a lot of these, but they're working on it. But I want to see what's going on in your life and how you're improving this side of your life. So first, let me say, what do people often get wrong about you?
I think you said at the start of the podcast, it's, that I would have Harvard tattooed on my forehead. I think there's
I would.
There's this connotation of, the certain types of people that come from that institution or other elite institutions, and they're supposed to act a certain way and perhaps have some type of, maybe even arrogance or superiority. And I guess I really pride myself on being a really humble person, and the fact that I can learn something from everybody, because otherwise I just don't think life's, as fun. It's like, if I get in the car with an Uber driver, like, so what, the person's an Uber driver, I can learn something from them. I mean, the conversations I have in Uber sometimes are just like incredible, especially here in Miami. I'm talking to like PhDs from Venezuela, and they're driving the car. I mean, it's just, I try to approach every single day as, I can learn something from every single person that I come in touch with. So I think because, I have, I guess, this on paper really good pedigree, I think people really get wrong that, like, that's who I am. And I'm really the opposite.
Got it. What is the one rule that you have for yourself that you never break?
I have a lot. That's probably part of why I'm such an OCD person sometimes. But I would say meditation is I brush my teeth and I meditate. Those are two things that happen every single day. And I really try to get even a millimeter better every single day.
Yeah, you're linking those two behaviors together, right? In the same way that you brush your teeth, you immediately know that there's a trigger from the toothbrush goes to meditation. Yeah,
it has to. It's I was a very anxious person for a very large part of my life, and at the age of probably 25, 26, it got to the point where I had to do something to deal with the anxiety, and one of my friends would call it the avocado pit of stress in my stomach, and it started as really simple breathing for 1, 2, 3 minutes, and now it sounds boring to say this, but part of my play hard is 2, 3, 4 hours on a Saturday or Sunday of my favorite meditations, where I'm literally just like washing my mind. I describe it as, you wake up and your energy is like an empty pool, and through the day it's just filling up with water, water, water. And when the week's done on Saturday, it's just like overflowing with water, overflowing. And those 2, 3, 4 hours for me just take it all the way down, and so I can refill it, later in the day and then for the following week.
What is a new behavior or a belief in the last, and you can fill in the blank, could be last number of years, last number of months, whatever hits you, that has significantly improved the quality of your life outside of meditation?
I would say listening to listen and not solve a problem. As an entrepreneur and someone who prides myself on like, what's the quickest way to get to the solution? I've learned partly through an exercise I've done in my entrepreneurial organizations forum, which is if you listen to listen and just reflect back what someone says to you, and then just really dive deep on something that you can tell is bothering them, you get to the real issue. And many times that person, when talking through it, can solve their own issue. Whereas my way of listening typically is I hear the person, but then my mind is always going, okay, how do I fix this? But when I do that, I get to the solution too early, and we might be talking about a problem that isn't actually the problem.
Got it. Makes sense. What is an unusual or absurd thing that you love?
It might be a little weird, but I love kicking my body's ass. Like, I love just, there's like not an ounce inside you to be able to like run another foot or, push a little bit more weight, but just pushing my body to the absolute extreme. It used to be probably sadistic, where it's like, even if I'd like sprained an ankle or whatever, I'd still go work out. I think that's pretty unhealthy. This is like, I've come to a healthy balance, but it's like pushing myself to the extreme to see how far I can go.
It's interesting. What techniques or approaches do you have that may be counterintuitive to grow your business outside of just grinding away at it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because I'm going through it now in terms of really hiring and getting away from the operations. I've done a few things. I turn off my phone, which sounds super counterintuitive, but I basically have my phone on airplane mode until probably 12 or 12:30. I don't take meetings until probably 2 p.m. And then I'm getting to the point where with a few assistants and team members, basically empower them to say, look, you have responsibility over this, and if you need to solve the problem, and I'm just not going to be around. And so I extricate myself and just become not available, which at times can be difficult, especially if there's a fire. But what you realize when you turn off your phone and it's on airplane mode, people figure stuff out, and you train people that you're not 100% responsive. I think we're in this interesting time where it's, the time frame in which we respond, went from letters, which were days or months, to phone calls, which were maybe days or hours, to now text messages, which if you don't respond to me in 60 seconds, something's gone wrong. So almost a retraining of both myself and the people around me, which may sound counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's really interesting how when they can't get a hold of you, they somehow figure out how to solve it. And, I once read a post from Tim Ferriss, and it was what he calls the art of letting bad things happen. So as you know from reading the book, when he went off to his trip to Italy for 4 months, and he was trying to figure out what was going to, go down, he knew that it wasn't going to be perfect. Actually, I think he was gone for a year or whatever the number was. He knew it wasn't going to be perfect. And so he just established the art of letting bad things happen. So when my wife and I take extended trips, for let's call it a month or more, we know shit's going to get fucked up. There's just no way around it. But it's better to take the trip, or it's better to do whatever it is that you're trying to do and just put it into the bucket of the art of letting bad things happen, because the upside is worth it. Yeah.
I love that. The art of letting bad things happen. It's, you have to, otherwise, you'll never get out of your situation. I think as entrepreneurs, we're such control freaks that we want to be, around every single decision. But the reality is your company will never grow until you let go.
Yeah, for sure. If you could spend 1 month anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I want to spend 3 months. I want to do a sabbatical every year for 3 months. And the places that are on my list are South Africa, Cape Town, Spain, Italy, and New Zealand. And why South Africa? We went for a wedding about 2 years ago, I think. And it's such an amazing amalgamation of, you have your safari, and you have Cape Town, which is like LA. You have outdoors activities, you have amazing nightlife. And the best part, it's probably 1/5 or 1/6 cheaper than what it costs to, live in LA.
Yeah, it's crazy. Last year we did Cape Town for New Year's, and it was incredible. It was a long fucking flight. You go to sleep for 8 hours, you wake up, you sleep another 8 hours, you wake up, you sleep another 8 hours. It just doesn't end. But when you get there, it's really freaking cool, especially in the wintertime, because it's their summer, really. Oh,
it's
cool.
Incredible. And if you like wine, there's, Stellenbosch and Constancia.
That's where we went.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I still get their Stellenbosch wines. Just really, really good stuff. And it wasn't that expensive either. Are there any particular routines or tools or anything that you use to rejuvenate or decompress yourself? I know you mentioned meditation. Is there anything else that you do to release the stress valve?
Yeah, I have a really regimented morning routine, and then I've started to do some things throughout the day. So the morning is I get up and I share some affirmations. I'm really into Abraham Hicks right now. They have a book called Ask and It Is Given. And the one that I always repeat to myself is things are always working in my favor. The universe is conspiring in my favor. And so I'll say that to myself before I get up. And then I go journal. And I have a very set list of questions that I journal. And it's really focused on gratitude. I write 10 things that I'm grateful for. And then I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I work out without fail. And then I meditate. So that really starts my day, sets my intention. And then throughout the day, because I still have that avocado pit of stress sometimes, if I find myself, kind of getting into just out of control, what I'll do is I'll just put the phone on airplane mode. I'll sit down. I'll literally just close my eyes. I'll take 5 really, really, really deep breaths. And somehow it just breaks the pattern, just changes the interruption of whatever's happening. And then I can get back onto my day.
Let's chat for a second about Abraham Hicks. This is one of those things where I have heard the name Abraham Hicks throughout the last 20 years on and off. And I just recently started connecting to, I guess we need to say their work. Or would that be the right way to say it? Is that the right pronoun, their work?
I think so.
It's a little trippy.
A little bit.
It's a little trippy. And I started doing, I could send it to you if you don't have it. She's got a 10-minute morning meditation that is specifically designed to increase your vibrational frequency. And she gives you 17 seconds the goal is to train yourself to keep the vibration at whatever vibration, you're trying to manifest. So if there's something particular that you're trying to manifest, you want to keep your vibration at the level of somebody who would manifest, who has that thing. So anytime you get out of that, then it's a problem. So she says you got about 17 seconds before you can change your state and get back into the vibration, or you got to start all over again tomorrow. And the idea is to train yourself to vibrate higher. So are you getting like deep into it from a vibrational standpoint way, or how are you approaching Abraham Hicks?
One, I would love to get the 10-minute meditation. Yep. I can send you a few. One that I do every day it's a 15-minute get into the vortex. And I'll just share how I got into it. Meditation's been a big part of my life for the past probably 8 years or so now. And increasingly, spirituality, law of attraction, vibrations, just energy, particularly over the past 2 years, has really, really been a big part of my life. So I had a Reiki healer come in probably 8 months ago, and I'll be completely honest, I really didn't believe in that type of thing. She was reading cards, the first time that's ever happened to me in my life, and I was super, super skeptical. And she just asked me, she goes, "Hey, does your left knee hurt?" And I was like, "What?" And I'd never met this person. She doesn't know me at all. She goes, "Yeah, when you walked in, there was a big, red ball around your left knee." And I was like, "Yes." And then she said some other things throughout the time that it made me realize that, until you experience it, it's probably really hard to understand. But I was like, there's something here. And she said to me, "Look, I really recommend you read this book called Ask and It Is Given." And I listen to Ask and It Is Given on repeat, like every single day, because it's ingraining in my mind that if you ask for it for the universe will give it to you. But the third step that at least I don't do, and I don't know many people that do, is that allow it. Us as entrepreneurs, we're always like pushing the rock up the hill to try to get to the top. But the reality is, if we just let it come to us, let go a little bit, allow that vibration to come, it will. And, there's so many good examples, but like she talks about people, that are in debt or don't have a lot of money. And she says, when you are focused on that, you're sending out the vibration of what you don't have. And as hard as it may be, just feel the feeling of what it's like to have a lot of money. And as soon as you can really feel what it's like to have all the money you want in the world, or all the whatever you want in the world, that's when the manifestation comes. But we think it's the other way around. We think the manifestation or the condition has to change, and then we'll feel better. And what I've learned from Abraham Hicks is, no, it's the complete opposite. It's have the feeling, and then things will come. And I can just tell you, in my life and business, I've manifested a lot of things, sure, because I work hard and what have you, but because I've had the feeling of what they feel like before they come to me.
When you say the feeling, is it that you're stepping into, like, we'll use a house as an example. Is it that you're stepping into, like, walking around the house and touching your new, mahogany wood walls in your library? Or is it more like the feeling that you're going to have when you have the house?
I think it's both. I think it's, one, being that person where you wake up with the mahogany walls and, you got this expansive house, the house of your dreams. And then whatever that feeling is, if it makes you feel proud, if it makes you feel ecstatic, if it makes you feel happy. And I can just tell you from my experience, the other part does not work. The part of, I don't have the house, I'm depressed, I don't have the money I want, I don't have the things I want. Because at least in my experience, what that's doing is it's sending out the vibration of everything that you don't have. And so it's completely flipping the script of, sure, even if you don't have that, even if that's not your condition, if you can feel it, if you can live it in your mind, because your mind and the universe doesn't know the difference between you walking through the mahogany house or you in your mind thinking, feeling that you are in the mahogany house.
So this gets trippy, right? So now you're putting the vibration out, and then you got to ask yourself, well, what the fuck is that? like, Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, does that mean that there's some juju that just went, down my street in LA and is like, finding its way to where it needs to be and pulling in what I want? Like what? Like, like now we got the mechanics, right? Which is like, okay, well, walking around with your shoulders slumped and, doing the opposite of what Tony Robbins teaches is not going to get you what you want. Step into it, feel it, raise your vibration, raise your energy. Imagine that it's here right now, right? All that. But what the fuck is really going on? Like what? Because I know it works. I do, because it just shit keeps appearing in my life that I visualize. It just does, happens all the time. But like, you went to Harvard, figure it out. What is that?
It's a great question. And as somebody that is, very scientifically based and evidence-based, it's a conundrum. And where I've landed on it is, it just is. And just like you respect the law of gravity, you wouldn't jump off a building because you know what would happen. Let's just respect the law of attraction, right? And it's just, it is. And sure, there's a scientific formula to explain, gravity, and there's a lot of books on consciousness and energy and vibrations. And I think at some point we'll have a really succinct way of describing the law of attraction or vibrations. But in the meantime, I just accept it as fact. And that's because it's worked in my life super well. And then every single person that I've admired or idolized, they say the same exact thing. I remember the guy that created Dilbert, Scott Adams, talking about how he basically willed himself back to speak through this same process. He was told he would never speak again just by this simple process. Or Joe Dispenza, who I've had the opportunity to speak on stage with, is, he's a perfect example of the man was paralyzed, and just by using his mind, he was able to get himself back to, now serving millions and millions of people.
Yeah, he sure did. He went to the chiropractic school I went to. I mean, he's an incredible guy. Incredible guy. All right, so we're going to wrap up with a rapid fire round. Answer as quickly or as slowly as you like, but it's basically a first thing that comes to mind round. What would your friends say is one of your superpowers?
Manifesting my desires, connecting really, really good people.
What keeps you up at night?
What more can I do to serve others?
Do you collect anything, or have you collected anything else?
I used to collect turtles because they were my favorite animal. I don't do that. I've gone to this asset-light existence, but I definitely do collect premium wines.
What is the one thing that you want to get better at?
I want to get better at not reacting. I still, when things come in, whether that's a text message or an email or a phone call or somebody lashing out at me, I still have a tendency of reacting to that, and I don't want to let other people steal my energy or bliss.
That's a great one. What's your guilty pleasure?
I would say sleeping in and wine.
If you had to give a TED Talk on nothing that you're known for, nothing that you speak about, and it could be on anything that you have a passion for, what would it be?
I would say spirituality and source energy. I came from a place where I went to church. My dad's dad was a pastor. I was, brought up in this relatively open Christian environment, and for a lot of reasons shunned religion and thought it was, I won't go as far as say I was an atheist, but very much just had religious trauma and, what's happened with the Catholic Church and the fact that we fight wars over it. I really detested, despise what a lot of the institutions would do. But now this idea that there's just this energy field or this vibration, as we were speaking about, this source that we all emanate from. Eckhart Tolle likens it to the sun, and we're just beams coming from the sun. It's something that I've just become super, super passionate about. And I hope to get to the point where I'm fluent enough to speak about it like an Abraham Hicks on a stage like TED.
Dude, amazing. Well, this was everything I hoped it would be. And I am super, super excited that we got a chance to do this. Do you have any final words, suggestions, or an ask for the people that are listening?
Well, a few things. One is if there's any way that we can help serve your audience, whether that's through their body for pain or mobility, they can find us at in2itive.md. And if there's anything that I can do to help you or anyone else listening on their entrepreneurial path, one of my big passions is helping people achieve their impossible. So, I'm not too hard to get a hold of. So if you do, I'm happy to help.
Well, Christian, thank you so much for taking the time, and we will link up everything in the show notes.
Thanks so much, and have a beautiful day.
You too. All right. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode and you know someone that needs some help in either stepping up their work hard game or their play hard game, it would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast with them to help me get this movement out there. So if you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes, take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, and I will be forever grateful. So until the next episode, excuses are over. It's time to live.